what we need to think about, how does one revere the Prophet's image and memory in a liberal age? Most people, most Muslims who are in the United States, they've come to the United States for its liberal freedoms. The United States is a place of liberality. What people in the United States value most is a fundamental right here is freedom. This has also become a global pattern. We've just seen the shock waves of freedom running through Tunisia, through Cairo, through Bahrain, through Libya, through Iran, and through other countries in the Middle East. People, and in Syria, before Imam Bainouni accuses me of being partisan. But, and all these countries are now going through a lot of soul searching as to how to improve the conditions and the polity out there. But nevertheless, how does one protect the Prophet's image in a world of provocation and intimidation of Muslims? So yes, indeed, the cartoonists in Denmark did provoke. They might say whatever they want, there was a provocation. Was it necessary that at least 100 Muslims lost their lives in protests all over the world, because in protests and got into confrontations with law enforcement agencies in a variety of places and lost their lives because they became so passionate in defense of the Prophet's image? Of course, it was a very ugly image. It's an image that one disagrees, but one can defend the Prophet's record by his practices. These kinds of activities, of course, one can have peaceful boycotts. One can boycott Danish products. One can boycott the Danish newspaper. One can do all kinds of other things. These are all legitimate, and non-violent acts do deliver dividends. As we just saw, a dictator was toppled most people thought that the despot could never be removed. I used to say that you might, if someone tells you that the pyramids have moved from Giza to Gaza, that could be true. But if someone would tell you that Mubarak would be moved, I would say that's not true. But it happens. Through proper non-violent activities, it is possible. And through proper non-violent defense of Islam's fundamental teachings and opposing negative stereotypes about Islam, there's a better way in defending Islam's values. And therefore, I would appeal to Muslims to think about a very, very important doctrine within our teachings. That important doctrine is called the doctrine of public interest maslahah. These issues are questions of politics. And Muslim politics is a very pragmatic politics. Now, I want to quickly say, when we say pragmatic politics, it doesn't mean politics in order to win now, in order to conquer later. There's a stereotype going out in the United States that Muslims are only playing nice now because basically they want to overtake this country. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's a pragmatic politics that when you're in a country, when you are facing situations as challenging as we live in the United States, where people want to burn the Quran in Florida, or people are declaring the Sharia to be not enforceable in Oklahoma and in several other states, where people are taking this kind of anti-Islamic activities, what is the proper and right way to defend yourself? The proper and right way is to speak out repeatedly. I think the conduct of Muslims on the events that happened in the last summer regarding the mosque near Ground Zero, I think was exemplary conduct that Muslims exhibited, kept on speaking to the press, despite the fact that one was vilified. Your entire history was turned into one of terrorism, that Muslims, wherever they go, they build a victory mosque, and this is a victory mosque being built. I mean, I don't know where these people get that from, but people do say these things. Nevertheless, it requires, first of all, a certain capacity to do self-critique. Lack of self-critique on the part of Muslims and being taken away by passions are not very productive. It is also not wisdom that Islam teaches. Islam's fundamental teaching is wisdom. When you don't have any guidance, use wisdom and wise practices that will make sure that you win the end game. There's an end game that has to be won, for which you might have to forfeit some, on a pragmatic basis, some things that you do not like. So I think sometimes one has to swallow the bitter pill. In Pakistan, some people will have to stand up and take a stand, but one person cannot stand up. It cannot be Salman Taseer only. It will have to be the tens of thousands that come out in the street of Lahore, that thousands of bullets will not be able to mow them down. It will only take that wave of courage that breaks the fear of the fanatics who are really imprisoning Muslims in a variety of places. And Pakistan today has become the central place where that kind of level of out-of-control fanaticism has now really brought the country onto the precipice of a tremendous amount of danger, a danger unto itself, that it is losing its foundational values for what that country was established for and getting lost along that path, and is now inflicting wounds not only on itself, but on the image of Muslims globally. So with the result that a Muslim living in New York or in Durham, who doesn't even know where Pakistan is on the map, has to now have to face the barrage of attacks on Islam because of the actions of people who do things in the name of Islam, but Islam has very little to do with it in terms of its spirit. But we also have to acknowledge that this issue, in trying to reform the blasphemy law and trying to reform a new kind of ethics for Muslims, means that Muslims must take the project of Islamic reform very, very seriously. The project of Islamic reform, in other words, to revisit some of our legal precepts, not to change the Quran or the Hadith, but the legal precepts of how does Islamic teachings work in a new time and in a new place. This has been something that Muslim jurists have done for hundreds of years, for centuries, and we have a big record of that. What we need to do is take that reform project very seriously. Then only can one begin to address at least one piece of this, and that is this very ugly tendency on the part of Muslims, literate or illiterate, who are going after these kinds of acts in places like Pakistan or in Egypt. And the irony in Egypt is that Abdul Sabur Shaheen, who led the charge against Nasser Abu Zayd, afterwards wrote a book called Abi Adam. He wrote a book, a novel or something like that called My Father Adam. And in that book, he wrote something that was not pleasing to people, and he was accused of blasphemy. So ultimately, blasphemy is going to eat up blasphemy. I think that what we need to do is to stop this track and this road of insanity that is going on in different parts of the Muslim world. This needs to stop very seriously. Otherwise, the damage to Islam will be something that incalculable. And furthermore, the reputation of Muslims will become so lowered in the eyes of other communities that it will be difficult to have a sane conversation and have a conversation with other people, because people will just be so repelled by the conduct of Muslims. Just as it's become impossible to talk about Islam because of the events of 9/11. It's difficult to talk about. Someone will say, but Muslims are only out to kill non-Muslims. And how can you deny that? That some people did do so. 19 hijackers took 3 planes and drove it, or 4 planes, and drove it into different parts of the country and killed people. But what we also need to know, that this is not only killing non-Muslims. Muslims should be more worried than non-Muslims, because the biggest victims of suicide bombings today are Muslims. I've stopped counting the number of suicide bombings that are happening in Pakistan. This is all part of the same cycle. So blasphemy is only one piece of a larger pathology. Blasphemy is only one piece of a larger pathology of Muslims losing the essence of their faith and losing the fundamental values of Islam: respect for life, respect for others, and respect for and human decency, which are the fundamental values. And unless we do not address those issues, very little is going to change. I thank you, and I'm open to take questions from anyone in the audience. Thank you very much.